So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to Fulfillionaire's File and welcome to this conversation. I'm Victoria Ferrer, a personal power and public presence coach, and of course, a financial educator. My work focuses on helping professionals, business owners, and organizations grow with clarity and purpose without burnout. I work with individuals who want to communicate their value confidently, step into leadership, and make meaningful decisions about their future. And many of the people I support are mid career professionals between the ages of 35 and 65, navigating important transitions, career shifts, leadership growth, or simply asking the powerful question, what's next for me? And I also work with coaches, consultants, and small business owners who want to scale their work while staying aligned with their values and maintaining the human connection that makes their work meaningful. And of course, I am delighted to welcome our guest, Marc Stoecker, for a meaningful conversation. Marc is known for his thoughtful perspective on leadership, personal growth, and purposeful work. He has spent years helping professionals and organizations think more deeply about how they operate, make decisions, and lead in complex environments. What makes Mark's approach unique is his ability to blend practical insight with reflection. He encourages leaders not only to perform better, but also to think better about their values, priorities, and the impact they want to create. Mark's work resonates strongly with people who want to grow intentionally rather than reactively. And that's why I'm especially excited to have this conversation today. Mark, welcome. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Thanks, Victoria. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much for inviting me today.
You are most welcome. So, Mark, many professionals today feel pulled in many directions. From your perspective, what does it mean to grow with clarity instead of burnout?
Sure, a great question. I think in coaching, like when I talk to clients, you have something called the being and the doing side of the human condition. So the being side is your mental mindset, how you show up in the workplace and in your personal life. The doing are the logistical things you go out and do, apply for a job, manage a team. So I think you need to really think about where your focus is. Where your focus is, that's where your energy flows. So if you're not having a good experience with your team, where's your mindset? What do you need to do to get more clarity? Notice where you're getting energy and where the energy is depleted. Um,
Yeah.
some of the ways you can deal with that is through reflection, um, have scheduling thinking time. I think leaders, that's really important. I actually have a block of time I schedule
Mm-hmm.
for thinking time myself. You can journal. There's some great resources out there. Getting a great journal. You can go for a walk. You can do
Mm,
something with the arts. There are a number of things you can do to get clarity that are adjacent to what you're doing with your day-to-day work.
amazing. You work with leaders and organizations navigating complex challenges. What are the most common patterns you see when people lose alignment with their purpose or values?
I think it's mostly attitude. These negative feelings or these saboteurs that come up that tell us that we're not good enough, that our team isn't good enough, or that our experience, the circumstances aren't good enough. So our interactions with others are, subpar. We don't show up as our authentic selves. We're not aligned with our values, our work values. So there's things that you can do to get realigned, and part of that is what I've already talked about, but there are other methods to kind of help sharpen your mental mindset to show up more powerfully as a leader and even as an individual contributor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so can you remember, you don't necessarily need to mention the name of your client. But, can you remember a story that happened where he lost his alignment and came to you for coaching? And how did you transform him?
Yeah, I can think of one person in particular. He had a challenge with kind of his mindset about himself, how he showed up, image, self-image was very important to him.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling frustration with the team who didn't always keep their values or their integrity. So what we did was we kind of did an examination of, well, how are you showing up? Focusing on what you can control versus the circumstances. So we helped him kind of get, realign with his values, fairness, integrity, challenge. Some of those were
Mm-hmm.
missing. They were the missing links.
Yeah.
And then from that conversation helped him have a more empowered conversation with his teammates. He talked to his manager, he talked to his direct reports, and as a result, he was able to move forward. He eventually left the position and started his own work
Oh,
because that's something he had been sitting on the sidelines to do. So that was part of the work as well as making the transition from, being a full-time employee to being an independent executive consultant. So.
wow, that's why I really believe the importance of a coach. You can't do it alone. And you need somebody to remind you, to give you these guideposts on what's the next step. Because sometimes like we're so engrossed with doing what we want to do, but we don't really know how to go about it. What's the next step? And that's why I always say, get a coach. Yeah. So many mid-career professionals are asking themselves, what's next for me? What advice would you give someone who is at that crossroads and trying to rediscover direction?
That's a great question. I also think that one thing you can do is think of a peak experience you experience sometime in your professional or personal life. You can write out the story and then circle the skills that you noticed that you used during that peak experience, that peak, that
Mm,
story, and then go back and put an asterisk next to the skills that you truly enjoyed using in
mm,
that example. You can do this a couple times so you can repeat it. Another thing you can do is create a values inventory. Maybe your values aren't aligned with your current work, corporate values. What do you want variety? I mentioned values a little bit earlier, but it's so important. The values that we have, are they aligned with what we truly want? Are we living into our values or are we just playing lip service to them?
yeah.
You can do things like use a book called The Listening Path. You do these things called morning pages. It's like stream of consciousness for 3 pages, and you just talk about whatever's coming to your mind. That's another place you can kind of dig in
Mm.
and get some information. Um, so those are some ideas.
Interesting. Interesting. So organizations today are investing more in leadership development. In your experience, what actually creates real behavioral change in leaders, not just temporary inspiration?
When you're invested in, personal growth, you need things like commitment, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Consistency, that can be hard. You can be committed, but not consistent. So I think that's one indicator. Like you have a desire, you have an intention to do well. So you have that commitment, but you're not always consistent because life gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned community earlier. I think community is
Mm-hmm.
something that key. You don't have to do this alone. Accountability is the final piece, I think,
Right.
on your actions. I have an accountability partner I meet with twice a week. How are we
Mm-hmm.
doing at the beginning of the week? How are we doing at the end of the week? We send each other a list of our business goals and our personal goals every weekday,
Mm-hmm.
work weekday. Then we check and see how you're doing. So I think, especially leaders, anybody could benefit from this, but having accountability can really be crucial. So.
Yeah, I totally believe in that. Artificial intelligence is transforming how we work. How do you see AI supporting human decision making while still preserving wisdom, creativity, and ethical judgment?
So I think we need to look at outcomes versus outputs. So we're not just pushing information quickly through an AI tool, but there's quality there that needs to be checked by people. So I kind of look at it as the human judgment is the bridge between the output and the outcome, if that makes sense. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think the AI optimizes what's measurable, and we as people need to be responsible for what matters when we're looking at those outcomes. So I think it's quality versus quantity. When we're leaning into the creativity, the wisdom, the judgment that you're talking about, we as humans have specific skills that AI hopefully will never have. So I think we need to lean into what makes us unique. our wisdom, our empathy, context, reflection, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. And for professionals and leaders listening today who want to build meaningful careers and organizations, what is one mindset shift that can make the biggest difference in how they approach their work and leadership?
So I think it's consider viewing challenging situations as gifts and opportunities. So that one employee, that elusive contract you're trying to get, that delay in product delivery, that can be frustrating, right? So
Yeah.
all these experiences are gifting us something, more patience, a better strategy, increased resilience, and maybe preparing us for an even greater challenge. So, that's something that I think is important. That's a paradigm shift, a perspective shift that I think is helpful as a leader and a professional.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing your insights today. Conversations like this remind us that leadership and professional growth are not just about productivity, they're about purpose, clarity, and connection. Mark, if the viewers want to connect with you directly, can you give us your contact details?
Sure, thanks, Victoria. They can contact me through prismofpurpose.com or they can send me an email through prismofpurpose@gmail.com. And I'm happy to talk. I have a newsletter that I put out once a week, trying to add
Mhm.
value. I do pop-up workshops, things like that on different soft skills and technical skills. So I would love to have a conversation with some of your listeners if it serves.
Yes, I'm sure. So, for those listening, my work focuses on helping individuals and organizations build that clarity. I support purpose-driven professionals, leaders, and organizations who want to grow in ways that are sustainable and aligned with their values. So, Mark, thank you again for joining us today. And do you have any goodbye talk to our reviewers? Maybe you want to say something before we say goodbye.
One of my favorite phrases I like is progress, not perfection. So whatever you do in your business or personal life, remember even just that 1% can make a difference and just have grace with that and feel gratitude for what does come up, even though it's not perfect.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So you know now how to get in touch with Mark. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. And to everyone listening, thank you for spending this time with us. I hope today's discussion gave you something meaningful to reflect on. Goodbye. Bye, everyone.